So, Iron Man was released in 2008 and did a great job for Marvel as a touchstone for the MCU. Marvel was risking every cinematographic right under the roof to pay for loans they had made to produce this film, so they either succeeded or they would most likely never make films again. But they didn't have the rights for Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, or X-Men, so they produced this film with the leftovers of their IP. A character that had little to no traction compared with the characters they didn't have. The fusion between Tony Stark and Robert Downey Jr. makes this film work from the get-go, and there's a strong parallel between the actor and the MCU. After being in jail through rehab and hitting the lowest points of his life, very few big-budget films would take a risk with him. And as the character was not well known outside the comic book community, very few actors would risk to take the role of Iron Man in a project that might as well fail and tank at the box office. The stakes were high for both the studio and the actor, and neither of them had a safety net if they failed. This film features a vulnerable and incomplete protagonist flawed to his core, and he ends in a very different place from where he begins. The first act, Tony Stark is called the Merchant of Dread, and it doesn't bother him, but upon suffering from his own weapons, he changes. He realizes that what his own products generate, and although his giant ego remains untouched, the experience brands him. He leaves his apathy behind and he set himself to change whatever is within his grasp, with a little vengeance in the middle. The plot of this film moves quickly, the main character moves it along, and every transition is driven by his decision or the ones of the villain Obadiah Stane. This film's pace is natural and each scene slides smoothly into the next. Tony Stark's charisma and style in his way through superheroism carries this story along. Robert Downey Jr.'s flair is entertaining and fun, although Marvel will be later blamed with being heavily formulaic and with producing very zany films. In this one in particular, the formula works. In the first act, the character either discovers his powers or develops them, then comes the low point of the second act, and the fight with the villain in the third act. Remember where the MCU and every superhero film comes from. In the previous decades, releasing a superhero film which the audience didn't hate was traditionally hard. For every Christopher Reeve or Tim Burton film, there was a steal like Batman and Robin or worse. MCU films are formulaic because the formula works if it has something extra. The setting is changed or if its plot is interwoven with several conflicts. The formula becomes stale if the plot moves the character and not the other way around, or every event happens for no organic reason. The MCU will be guilty of that later on, but in these first steps, this formula wasn't this clear and it did generate some necessary stability. Iron Man's continuity is absolute. A lot said in this film is kept more than 20 films later, except for the actor playing James Rhodes. The development of the character and the world surrounding him kept going organically and changed in a believable way. The post-credit scene became a staple of this universe, and Nick Fury's debut will be very functional as a touchstone for another character who would have the spotlight for a long time in the MCU.